What was the O'Connor conversation about? I don't know, like random philosophy stuff, basically. God, I keep saying I read this book, but I haven't. I'm like 70% of the way through it. I'm reading this book called Culture and Conflict in the Middle East. So much of it is so interesting. It has to do basically with how like tribal societies managed to work in for Arabs, basically. Like, how was it that they were able to maintain these like tribal societies across like such vast stretches of land for so long without things falling apart? And I won't get into all of this, but just there's this concept that a lot of this is built on, and the author calls it he calls it balanced opposition, and it's super fascinating. But like, I'll explain like this very simple thing, and then it makes sense in terms of how it would work. Okay, so say you have like your family head. We're never gonna be done with Israel Palestine. This has nothing to do with Israel Palestine. Just leave if you don't like what I'm talking about. Okay, please leave. Oh, I'm pivoting, dude. This year I'm gonna pivot to the fucking we're just gonna read history all day. Okay, I need to bleed all the fucking random retards for my stream. You obviously you trace it through the father's line. In a lot of these in the Arab tribal societies, everything rested on this concept called balanced opposition, and what that meant was whoever you were fighting against, the fight would only go as big as the family tree allowed it to go, essentially. So, for instance, let's say that you have like these two families fighting with each other. It would just be these two families fighting with each other. That's it. It would be here and here. So you wouldn't have these like huge wars where it'd be like 5,000 people against like 20 people. It would always be here. But let's say you get into an area where like this guy here wants to fight against like this guy here, and the ancestor you share, it's not common until you get to like a great grandfather or something, right? That might pull in everybody that's like part of this tree to be fighting everybody that's part of this tree. And then again, let's say that like you over here get into a conflict with somebody over here, then that might mean that every single person who traces their lineage up to this guy is now fighting every single person that traces their lineage up to this guy. This is like kind of like basic family structure that a lot of or all of like the Arab societies kind of revolved around in, I guess like, would this have been pre all the caliphites? Maybe pre Ottoman Empire caliphate. But the way that this worked was it essentially made it so that you have these societies where you always have like a balance of conflict. There's never one side getting steamrolled by the other. It ends up being entirely decentralized. Like nobody's required to like give a command. Like nobody up here has to order this guy to fight. Nobody up here has to order this guy to fight because everybody just knows the expectation is like, depending on which family members are involved, you know if you're going to have to be involved in this conflict or not. It makes it so that like seeking vengeance, taking retribution, or collecting reparations or payments is very easy, right? So like if this guy over here does something to fuck with you over here, because he's like, they have like this common ancestor. Now, anybody in this group can take vengeance or seek reparations from anybody in this group. It just, the way that this balances itself out, like works, it just works so well to maintain some kind of like order that was totally decentralized, allowed for a whole bunch of different like freedoms and everything for the individuals involved. It's just a super interesting way to balance society. One of the interesting things too that's brought up that I always I guess I take this for granted is that you always view, I think in the West, we view the state as being like the evolution of, you could say like from this kind of stuff, from this type of like tribal, nomadic, pastoral, whatever organization. You always think of the state as being the next step, but that's not true. The state for a while ran in parallel to these things. However, the worst versions of states are far inferior to the best versions of those tribal systems. So like early states were essentially just extortion schemes where you would have a bunch of peasants, and peasants are fucked who do farming, because if you do farming, you kind of have to stay in one spot, which leaves you vulnerable to raiding. It means that you're usually have like a high population density. You're susceptible to having your shit fucked. You can't just pack up and move. You're susceptible to other people like extorting you. Like, so states basically form as like these early kind of like thuggish extortion mechanisms. And if you are like part of these more nomadic people, you move and you do this like tribal stuff, your life is actually infinitely better than like the poor peasants that are like in these early, like these constitutional rights, ensuring states or whatever. Yeah, have you ever bored How does this lead to freedom of the individual? As you said, if you always get dragged into family feuds, which you can't opt out of, well, because of the family feud structure, it highly encouraged people to act in correct ways, because if you didn't, your honor and integrity are always on the line, and people in your family structure know that if you're going to do some dumb shit, they're going to get sucked into it. So if you want to go and fight with your brother, fine. If you want to go fight with your cousin, okay. But if you're going to start getting into a fight with like somebody whose lineage you have to go like 4 generations back to trace, well, if you're going to do some retarded shit, I'm going to have to be like on call to go and fight. And I will go and fight for you, because we have to, we must, because our honor and integrity is everything. And your ability to stand up and fight with your brothers, cousins, whatever, depending on the conflict, is everything. But it discourages that type of reckless behavior, because you know that now all of us are on the line for your retarded shit. So it, yeah. What was the book called? It's called Culture and Conflict in the Middle East. It's an interesting book. Armies of Sand mentions this a little bit. Arab soldiers in modern wars would desert their units to go protect their families. It happened a lot in the 70s. Oh, yeah, sure. Or even sometimes you might even have to leave your, he uses a word for it, but like you might marry into a family, but then if your tribe gets attacked, and even if it's part of your new family stuff, if you're a man, you might have to go back to your old family and fight with them against like even the family you married into or whatever. Yeah, stuff like that, yeah. Would you say that this is cringe in current society? I don't pass normative judgments on it, on whether it's good or bad. It's just, it was a form of organization that existed, and the author to this book argues that it's important to understand this form of organization, to understand how early Middle Eastern stuff developed, and how it might even play a role into some modern Middle Eastern politics. Isn't this decentralized system leaves you more susceptible to outside invaders taking over your country? Kind of. So one of the things that the author argues is this is the reason why Islam was so successful in the Arab world, is because what Islam did is it incorporated that concept of balanced opposition by giving you this top part of it, which was Muhammad, or like the Muslim versus the infidel. It basically made it so that all of the people, all of the tenets of the religion could be incorporated into this balanced opposition scheme, where the opposition is now the infidel. He's the outside family group. And then you have a way to, if you're fighting like an infidel or an outside, you have the ability to call upon all of your Muslim brothers to partake in that battle, because now it's, because now you've incorporated the religion into like that balanced opposition structure, which I think is interesting, yeah. What do you think about your conversation with Ina? It was okay. It's kind of not very remarkable, but when you describe these honor-based loyalties and honestly, it honestly just sounds like toxic masculinity. Was that a sincere comment, or was that a troll? Or was that a troll post? I can't tell. Would you ever go on Jesse Lee Peterson's show again for the memes? Maybe. I don't know. How late does this book go until? I'm assuming pre-20th century, since one of the main criticisms I read of Arab armies in the 20th century is the opposite of what you're describing: over-centralization that limited delegated authority and that discouraged initiative in junior officers. Well, I don't know. I don't know how far the book goes through time, but none of what I've talked about for this balanced opposition stuff, none of this really requires like organized armies. I think that this sort of societal structure would lose to the state, like an organized structure. The only thing that really matters for these like kind of tribal structures is that every man is somewhat of a fighter, and you develop that right through your life. You're trained from an early age, because it's understood that every man is going to be called upon to fight on behalf of his tribe. But you're called upon to fight in a numbers sort of way, not like we're going to show up in organized armies and like participate in like extended warfare on a battlefield. It's just like everybody kind of shows up and you brawl with each other basically. But you're versus like a formal state with an organized army, these types of structures are probably always going to fail, because you just can't present enough of a united front against the outside. Destiny is describing why honor killings are a thing. I don't know what an honor killing has to do with this. Holy shit. One of the things I totally understand, I understand why so much now, why historians and other people don't do like mainstream politics. is because it's the conversations are cancer. Like, you degenerate, retarded fucks cannot even conceive of an idea without immediately trying to tie it into some normative system you have so you can pass some judgment on it or incorporate it into some dog shit fucking political idea that you have. We should all go back to the jungle and kill ourselves. I think that would be the best society. I am all here for it. Jesus. I don't understand for the Dr. Disrespect stuff. I feel like I've heard for so long people say that they were worried about like potential lawsuits or whatever bullshit. I don't know why they ever felt that way. I'm not sure if there's like some other part to that story that I just didn't hear, but this story has been known since basically Dr. Disrespect got banned. I'm surprised that it's been under wraps for so long, considering I think about a year ago I started to hear about it from people that I wouldn't expect would keep those secrets. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's got to be more to it, but who knows? Yeah, I love you guys. It's been fun. Good luck. Ripperino, you're confirming this, or is it all secondhand? I don't know anything firsthand at all, but I've heard people that should know about it firsthand talk about this for years. Since he was first banned, right? Yeah. You can't just say this and then go offline. Listen, it's not my story to tell, okay? Also, who the fuck knows? Who knows what's true or not? It wasn't any of my original investigating. Just stuff that I've heard for a long time, though. So who knows? Good luck. Ripper, cappuccino, cappuccino. I'll catch you guys next. Stream right now.